Hi everyone, welcome to our media roundup. We have two senior journalists this month for you. There's Shoma Chatterji and Sanjay Kapoor. Sanjay is the editor of Hardnews. He's been a journalist who's covered politics extensively, but also other issues, as any good journalist does. Shoma is a film critic. She's based in Calcutta, and she is, to my mind, one of the best film encyclopedias, really. So I'm really happy to have both of you, particularly because this show we want to basically talk about how the media tackles Bollywood and our relationship with the media. And I mean, our relationship with Bollywood in the wake of the Aryan Khan controversy.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so I'll start with you, Shoma, on this. You've been, writing on this for a long time, and somehow the media's relationship with Bollywood has always been a little strange. One side we have the paparazzi, and one side we have the serious, so-called serious media in the past, at least, where we didn't even look at Bollywood really, right? What was happening. So, what's the change now?
There's hardly any change because I find, at least staying in Calcutta and following Bengali media very scrupulously. I'm a very, I read the newspaper with great scrutiny. I find that there is absolute silence on this main issue. I mean, hardly anything being seen on the television news, Anand, ABP, Channel Bengali, then there's hardly much news. I mean, it's a little bit news that is there, which I find is very strange, and especially in West Bengal because Shah Rukh Khan was the brand ambassador, all right, of West Bengal, and he was also running the Night Rider matches. So I don't know why the political leaders here, especially the this whole issue of Aryan Khan being in jail. And the media is also very silent. I mean, except for the national, whatever they are copying everything from the national media and putting it on the media. And the national media is more busier, I think, talking about who is asking for 8 crores and who is asking for 20 crores and what is the fight between them behind the scenes, rather than what the problem is. And I have never met Shah Rukh Khan personally, nor do I know him well, but I know him through my studies on his cinema and his kind of work that he has been doing. And he has been quite reticent and very controlled and restrained in the whole affair, which I admire greatly. And why is not anybody talking about that? This quiet reticence about the quietness, Sanjay, the dignity with which he is handling the whole case alone, without support, even from Bollywood. I don't find even Bollywood supporting him at all.
Right. So, Sanjay, but this is very different, right? I mean, is it because we are looking at Twitter and seeing this continuous attack? Forgetting the social media, the national media is pretty occupied with this. So you think you agree with Shoma on it?
No. Thank you, Seema, for inviting me for this very interesting discussion. I think national media is quite obsessed at the moment with Aryan Khan and Shah Rukh Khan. At times quite bewildered by why other members of the film fraternity are not stepping out and supporting him. Because Shah Rukh Khan, as a lot of writing that we have been reading for the last many years has shown, is not just a film star. He's far more. I mean, you have to recognize him as India's manifestation of soft power. When he goes abroad, the kind of excitement that he generates all around, and not just amongst Indians or NRIs, but also a lot of white people. So I think that when Shah Rukh Khan is getting impacted in a very flimsy charge, especially his son being picked up for something which is not being proven adequately, then we have to worry as to what is being done to the Bombay film industry. And this is not the first time there's been an attack on Bombay film industry in the last few years. You had that very unsavory episode that we saw pertaining to Riya Chakrabarti and how, that poor girl had to go through those things, and, the suicide of Sushant Singh Rajput, which unhappily coincided with the Bihar election. So, in a certain way, Bollywood is being used by this government for certain messaging that we may choose to ignore at the moment. but they recognize far more and far, I think, coherently than many of us, that Bollywood is something that they would like to control for sending out a message, because they have seen from the time of 1940s onward that Bombay film industry has been an instrument of nation building. When it comes to so disseminating issues of or values of
represents the diversity,
secularism, diversity, and all those things. And now you have a government which is now very focused on making it a Hindu Rashtra. And what does it really take? It could really also mean dismantling all the value system that Bollywood represented.
Right. So, Shoma, do you agree that because of what's happening around and within Bollywood, the media that covers it is also getting particularly polarized in the coverage, one, and two, like you hinted in earlier, but you can expand on it now, that we have seem to have lost the perspective of the story.
Yes, I think I agree totally with you. We have lost the perspective because firstly, what you said is very right. The media is very highly polarized, and polarized in a very bad way. I mean, on one way, they are on the one side they are trying to be examples of psychophancy around Shah Rukh or around his son or whatever, or even his wife Gauri Khan. And I agree completely with Sanjay that Shah Rukh is much more than a film star or a film personality. He's much more. He represents India in a very different way. He's a microcosm of a part of India, so to say. And the way he is controlling himself from expressing any anger or trying to help his son in any underhanded way. The only thing he's done is he appointed two very good lawyers to defend his son, to fight the case for bail, and bail is being refused and refused and refused. I don't know what the country is really coming to. Are we becoming totally, immune to the constitutional rights of people, or what? I don't really know. And why are we only hinting on the wrongful or whatever arrest of Aryan Khan? Why are we not looking at the larger picture, where everybody who speaks against Hindu Rashtra or against some government policy, be it an intellectual or be it a literate or a dramatist, is being immediately put into jail or tortured in different ways? I don't understand it. We have to look at the larger picture. It's not just Shah Rukh and Aryan. And I think it all started with Sushant Singh Rajput's suicide, which snowballed into a huge national thing and played around just before the elections, with Riya Chakrabarti, poor lady, being harassed, and her career is at stake now because of this, and she's not even involved. So I am really surprised that the journalistic, if you tell me, I am really surprised that the journalistic approach towards this whole issue of Aryan. What about a young man being arrested? Why only Shah Rukh's son? He's a young man. He's 23 years old. He knows his mind.
I just want to interrupt here because I think there are two major issues in both these cases. You know, one is like Sanjay, one is on suicides with the rear, and now it's on drugs. So we are falling, or would you say so, Sanjay, that we are falling into a trap where we are chasing individuals because obviously of a larger political connotations that political parties are bringing into it, instead of chasing the substance, which is suicides, depression in the film industry, big drugs, cartels, also impacting on the film industry, but also outside. I mean, the old journalists would have really chased this, no?
Yes, of course.
I'll ask Sanjay. I just want.
Seema, let's look at it. I mean, if we believe that this is being done as a large part of a larger conspiracy to dismantle a secular industry which has contributed to nation building, then these stories don't hold any meaning. I mean, it is deliberate part of whoever, whichever agency is, to show them as individuals mired in criminality on things which are very grey, which are corrupt, they're involved in any large-scale corruption, drug trafficking, and all that, because it suits in ways to dismantle the individuals who are, who there's so much devotion, there's so much of fan following that they have. So, the fact is that if the government was very keen to investigate criminality outside the fact that they want to destroy the personality of Shah Rukh Khan or many others, then they would have gone about it differently. But here it's targeting. I have never seen, I have followed drugs for a long, long time. I have covered narcotics since the time I was a cub reporter. I've never seen NCB chase individual users. It was always the responsibility of police, local police department, which should be picking up all these drug consumers. But now you have NCB, which should be looking into what is called drug cartels. They should be the ones who should be looking at why and how did 3,000 kg of heroin travel to India. That is their preserve. That is their mandate. But they don't look into it. Instead, they will call this girl Ananya Pandey and make her ask her question: who's your from where did you procure those 10 grams of charas or ganja or bhang or whatever? All those things which show that your intent is totally different. I mean, you're going in a different direction altogether. So I would think that there is a need for investigation into the big swamp the big swamp that Bollywood is. There is all kinds of funny money which gets into it. Films are made according to the underworld funds that come into it. But I don't think that is the intention. The intention goes somewhere else.
Yeah. Just the last question I want to ask you on this, because I want to move to another issue. So the Shoma, that it's also the fault, don't you think, of the film critics to some extent, because over the years you've had a very adversarial relationship with Bollywood and not been able to take positions about entire cinema, but always focus on very small personality issues. So that's where our whole look or outlook of Bollywood is influenced.
Yeah, it's become what shall I, too microscopic in the sense that what Malaika Arora has won today is more important than what is happening in the larger sector of the film industry, whether it is doing well, how it is coping during the lockdown. We only talk about this star having gone to Malaysia to shoot. I mean, this is, in our time, we wouldn't even consider it journalism. We wouldn't even consider it yellow journalism. So I don't know which way to look. When I talk to young journalists who are working in newspapers, they tell me that is what the editors have, asked them to do. So they say our hands are tied, but our hands were also tied, but we didn't bother about that because maybe our editors were more broad-minded and more open to what we were going to write. So I used to write left, right, and center, whatever I wanted to write.
So I'm just going to move a little bit away from this into another headline, which is also a recent headline of the India-Pakistan match. So Sanjay, you've been following cricket even as a cricket lover, not just as a journalist. But somehow, while it's always been a very emotive match between India and Pakistan, you've had journalists who have kept that distance and reported it fairly. But you've also had journalism where we become one of the rabble-rousers or waving the flag or the nationalist thing. So what should the role of journalists covering an India-Pakistan match, given the fact that it is emotionally fraught, should be? What should be our role?
Seema, I think we have gone far beyond this question of how journalists should conduct themselves. I think Shoma has been saying that, in the early days, she could do pretty much what she wanted, but now you can't do it. So, if you look at the media comes in different hues, different platforms. You have TV, you have online, you have print, and you have vernacular, and you have other things. So, like if you take the headline of Punjab Kesari just before the day of the match took place, it was something that declared war. I mean, something that suggested that there is far more happening than just a game of cricket in which there'll be 22 people chasing a ball or, hitting the ball all over the place. And this is what is worrying, because I don't think the reporters, I don't think the cricket writers, the commentators have control when there is an India-Pakistan match. Till the time there's an attempt by the political leadership that, look here, you need to just write about the game. Like for a short while when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the prime minister, he used cricket diplomacy. You had people going in from India to Pakistan, and suddenly waking up to the fact that, Pakistan did not fit the stereotype. It was a normal country, people loving each other, loving their neighbor. And suddenly it was very different. But you have a very government which shapes its foreign policy, which shapes its domestic policy. You had people using social media, especially cricketers of considerable standing with limited understanding and limited brains, people like Virendra Sehwag, who said that what is this nonsense which is going on, that, people can use crackers for after winning of Pakistan, but we can't use crackers for Diwali. and that absurd tweet of his got 80,000 tweets. Subsequently, he tried to make amends by saying that Shami should not be trolled in this manner. He's a eminent member of the Indian team, because Shami, after India lost against Pakistan, was trolled because he's a Muslim, and he said he was not putting effort enough to get these two guys out. So he put out some tweet which only got 20,000 support or retweet. Yeah. So shows that there's a big gap. There's a
true, and they are big. That is true, which is why the media needs to be far more vigilant, far more compassionate, far more sensitive, far more professional. So when we are entering this kind of a milieu, you find us increasingly becoming party to it, right? Rather than maintaining our distance and writing it in a professional manner.
So Shoma, should I answer?
Sanjay, you asked, then I have to ask something else to Shoma.
So no, my contention is that media is not in control. It's very, very tightly controlled by the government about what comes out. That's what I said. When the government wants, it will change, the entire narrative. But government of the day still uses Pakistan as somebody, an entity to shape your domestic politics. And UP elections are going to happen, so you have to go hammer and tongs against them, use them as an adversary. So I don't know whether journalists have control. If they had control, the articles would appear. Invariably, if you insist too much, you'll be without a job, you'll be out on the road. And that is what the tragedy is. I mean, if you go by the CMIE study, about 1 crore journalists and people associated in media have lost their jobs in the last 4 or 5 years. And why they lose a job? Because they had a beard, or they carried a chola, or maybe they spoke a language which the government disagreed. So that's what is happening.
Shoma, you wanted to add? Yeah.
No, I wouldn't want to add much because Sanjay said enough. I don't follow cricket much. The only thing I would like to talk about any sport, including cricket, of course, because it's a very high power game and always in the limelight. And cricketers are more interested in being brand ambassadors of this product or that product. I don't think there should be any politicization on the basis of religion or communal beliefs in any sport whatsoever. When I was young and when I started watching cricket matches, Pataudi was the captain and all that. I started, I think, watching when Fazal Mahmood was the captain of Pakistan. And we all fell over as teenagers because he was very handsome. So that was the way we were looking at cricket. We didn't even bother to find out whether it is Pakistan. We only knew that India is playing against Pakistan, or India is playing against Australia, or India is playing against West Indies, which was more important for us. India should win. Now, whether it is Pakistan in the opposite side did not matter to us at all. So I was shocked when all this started, when all this began. I don't know when this crept in, but it has become very strong now. Sometimes I feel that the sport gets undermined under the politics and under the whole communal issue that this is Pakistan and this is India. I don't think any political rift between the two countries has ever spilled over into cricket or into any kind of game when I was young. It is quite recent. It's not very old. It's not very old. I remember that once in the paper. Yeah. About 2-3 decades, I think, because once I remember that Pakistan had won against India, and in some minority clusters, there were a lot of, music and dance being played. But I've heard it. It was not reported in the press. I heard it from my friends, so I did not see the report in the. So even the media was away from all this. That is why we did not hear about it. There might have been small spurts here and there, but we couldn't hear it. It was not covered in the media. So as I said, media was much more open, as you said, objective, neutral, distanced, and yet involved. That is the magic of good journalism. You are distanced, and at the same time you are involved. You may become even emotionally involved, because I get very emotionally involved, and therefore I don't socialize with any people in the film industry for 40 years. I don't.
That's interesting behavior thing for journalists, behavior norm for journalists. Sanjay, do you agree that involved? As a journalist, you should be involved, of course, in whatever you're reporting, but there should be a distance also.
I think what is really required, people, you have to first of all build up trust of your contacts. I mean, if you don't have contacts, you don't get reports, and they don't get exclusive. But you should have the ability to somehow take a step back without getting emotionally involved in that. And because you have to write stories, and you cannot be, be very hagiographical about individuals that you are in close touch with, whether they're players or they're film stars or they're politicians. So our entire attempt is to strike a balance, draw close, but still enough to write something which could be adversarial, which could go, which may be objective, not entirely liked by the person that we're writing about. And that's what journalism was all about, till I think recently, where many people lost their free will. I mean, they are made to write what the government wants or what the editor wants. So that's a big change that is happening.
It's been sort of creeping up on us, and then it's sort of fast marathon, you know, it picked up speed. But it has been creeping up on us ever since the corporates came in, that you can write this and you can't write that. And, you know, there's a little bit of more gentle handling of the media, but making us write what you want us to write, kind of thing.
Seema, we have also not been very professional. I mean, I think if we had more journalists who said, no, we won't do it, if we had unions who actually stood by us, I think that entire structure of support for working journalists collapsed. And that has been an undoing of Indian media. You don't have individuals who be happy that I resign for not, you know, taking a stand, and then I'm going away. And it kind of inspires the young, and there are no inspirational stories going around where media.
I mean, we were inspired so much by some of the editors we worked under. You know, they told us the do's and don'ts. They brought in the ethics without any written code. They told us what our responsibilities and our duties were, and that was all part of coverage.
Yeah, true. But this Nobel Prize for this lady,
the corporate guy being your editor, what is he going to tell the journalist except make a fast buck? You know.
But the Nobel Prize for the lady is, I think, a major happening
for the right things.
And the important thing is that the language she's speaking works for all of us in different geographies, in different societies.
Absolutely.
She's raising the issues which work for us, which work for people in Ukraine, in the US. So this is remarkable. That is an outcome of globalization, that you need to look technology in the eye, you need to look individuals in the eye and stand by your values. And that's where the challenge lies.
And it can be done. People are doing it across the world. They're doing it in India as well. It's just that, you know, it's the odds, and most of them like to succumb for fat salaries and rubbing shoulders with power. So guys, I would love to continue, but I think these were the two headlines I really wanted your views on, and I'm so glad we had you with us. And it was
very happy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.